And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 56th episode of the Hoosier Sound, where our show has one main goal to give you our perspective of IU sports from the point of view as a student or a young adult. We are recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on Tuesday evening, October 2nd, where I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am with my usual co host, Matthew Lukens.
What's up?
Normally, we will be going live every Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to various networks so you can listen on your own time. Check out our Twitter and Facebook at The Hoosier Sound and subscribe. All the information is in our website, thehoosiersound.com. All right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk, but as always, Matt, what is your memorable monologue for this week in IU sports?
So, I think every Hoosier fan obviously knows that last weekend was Hoosier Hysteria. I don't really have to talk about it too much. We're going to cover it or whatnot. But my memorable monologue is actually a memorable moment from Hoosier Hysteria, which was that the in-state hero, the second coming of, the greatest Indiana Hoosier ever. No, not really. But the most heralded recruit in a very long time to come to IU since Eric Gordon, Romeo Langford takes the court during Hoosier Hysteria to a rousing ovation from probably, I want to say, 13,000, 14,000 fans that are in attendance for a preseason practice.
From what I heard, you couldn't hear his announcement over
No, you could
when
not.
they were telling.
I was there. I was about, was it 20 rows up, like in the student section, but like kind of like the furthest section, everything is K, maybe. Yeah, you could not hear his name. You heard, and then yeah, it was. They started to do the introduction because people weren't sure if he was going to go with the freshman or if he was going to be one of the last ones. But once they said 5-star freshman, and then they went,
Yeah.
the roof blew off the place. But
I did
yeah,
hear though that in addition to Romeo, Jawan the noise for Jawan when he came out was not as loud, but you still couldn't hear his name
oh
when.
no, Jawan you couldn't hear either, and Justin was approaching that. So I think there's a grand appreciation for the people that are still coming back to the squad. I think McRoberts was pretty close too. McRoberts was pretty loud as well. And by the way, congrats to Zach McRoberts and Juwan Morgan on being elected captains for this year.
You took my stuff.
Well, you know what? You didn't tell me that you had that as your stuff. So you know what? I'm going to take what comes out of my head. But anyways, I thought it was very memorable. Finally get to see Romeo in a Indiana jersey. That wasn't just a picture taken on his official visit. So that's nice to see. He didn't score much in the 15 minutes of the running clock in a preseason scrimmage, but what I thought, I'll talk about his performance just a little bit because we're probably going to go into this a little bit more, but I'll just talk about it right now since it's in my head. He only scored 2 points. I think he only attempted 2 or 3 shots as it is anyways. So he wasn't going out trying to shoot, but I thought Jerome Hunter played fantastic defense on him. I thought he stayed in front of Romeo pretty well, and I think he took it personally that he was guarding Romeo the whole time. So I found that really cool to watch the 2 freshmen go at it and see Jerome take some pride in his defense, because that is how he's going to get playing time with Archie, is if he shows hustle and determination on the defensive end, because that's all Archie needs to play you. I mean, just ask Zach McRoberts. You can take about 1-3 a game, and if you play great defense, Archie's going to play you. So I think if Jerome wants some playing time this year, maybe as Romeo's backup at the 2 guard position, I think playing defense like that you did against Romeo is going to really get in Archie's good graces fast. But on Romeo's side of things, on the offensive side, I thought defensively he played pretty well. He only forced Jerome Hunter into a couple of really bad shots. And then offensively, he was looking to pass. I think he maybe got 1 or 2 assists, but he made a couple of really, really nice passes and a couple of really good deflections. I know it's an inter squad scrimmage, and I want to hear a little bit more about when we play Loyola Chicago in a secret scrimmage about how Romeo does. And of course, he is a freshman, so the first couple games are going to be taking some getting used to for him, especially since college is a lot different than high school. But from what I saw in a inter squad 15-minute, running clock scrimmage in front of the Hoosier Hysteria faithful, I saw some grand potential for this year's squad, and I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about more of the standout performers here in a second.
Yep, and of course, we're going to preface this a bunch of times. It is Hoosier Hysteria. You can't take too much away from Hoosier Hysteria, especially a month before even somewhat of basketball being played.
But that's all we have. That's
exactly
all we have to go off of.
That's all we have to go off of. But I'm going to, Matt stole one of my things that I was going to talk about was congrats to. I think we all knew that Jawan was going to be one of the captains, but remember that the team votes for these captains. So Jawan, of course, was going to get it. That wasn't a surprise, but maybe somewhat of a surprise to some people. Some not others as much, but Zach McRoberts was also voted. So I thought that was really cool to see that not only is he obviously he had a pretty good year last year, but it's also the senior leadership that those younger kids are starting to see in Zach, and they're starting to learn from a walk-on. And they just really see his poise and potential and all of the stuff that he gives on and off the court. So it's good to see Zach still coming into his own. I wish we were able to give him a scholarship or something for everything he has done and is doing for the team. But congrats to Zach. And then the other thing I was going to mention, just because we had to. So I'm kind of stealing a little bit, but a lot of us that listen to this show also listen to the assembly call, and of course they also have their banner moments. And for the first time in a very long time, IU could actually finally raise a banner this past Saturday with the IU women's basketball WNIT championship. So we all knew it was coming. We all knew it was happening, but it was really cool to see it actually happen. It was really cool to see all of the coach and all of the players, and then Tyra and Amanda coming back for all of that, and just seeing the raising of the banner and just the moment that everyone had. And I definitely thought the coolest part I took away from that whole speech when Terry was talking about stuff was how she grew up an IU basketball fan and IU women's basketball fan, and it was her dream to see the rafters get filled with seats for a women's basketball game, and that came into fruition this past March and April with the women's basketball NIT championship. So that was really cool to see for the women's basketball program. But as we have already been talking, and it's not much of a segue, we'll segue into talking more about Hoosier Hysteria. I was not there, but I did get to watch the live stream that they had, which was interesting in itself. I will say the cool part, though, was during the dunk contest, Deron Davis was alongside some of the student broadcasters. Deron was commentating on everything, so that was a really funny thing to see all of Deron's commentating with what was going on, especially when Justin went to do those full court runs and everything. He'd just be like, "Oh, what you doing?" and all this kind of stuff. So it was funny to see. But Matt was there. If I'm not mistaken, they did not walk Trace Jackson Davis and Keon Brooks across the court like they did the other recruits last year.
No, they did not. They kind of set them. They kind of set them differently from where they set them up into the stands a bit more. I think that was purposely so that they could see the floor projections, because they did this fantastic thing.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they keep those all year and they actually improve them, because they looked great. But also I've seen better floor projections. So, I mean, with like a month to prepare, I'm sure that our graphics department will come up with something killer for the floor. But, I would like a little bit of improvement on those. Yes, sure. The flaming basketballs look cool and all, but
yeah, and
I have seen better.
It was the first run too of everything.
Right.
First putting it all out, you could even tell some of the changes that they had were not the smoothest, but it was kind of like a practice run to see how everyone liked it. But I with the floor projections, I liked the each player, even on the women's side, that everyone got their own introduction and they had their own person on the floor basically throughout all of it. To me, I don't know how it was in the stadium. It was really dark and I couldn't see anyone walking across the floor unless they were in the Indiana State logo. But that was about it. Otherwise, I thought the floor projections were pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, other thoughts on Hoosier Hysteria? 3-point contest winner, Juwan Morgan. Don't know if anybody would have predicted that before the shooting contest, but to be honest, Brianna, his partner, kind of carried him a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Juwan. She was shooting lights out. Evan Fitzner. Speaking of 3-pointers, by the way, Evan Fitzner looking fantastic, looking like an extraordinary piece. Now, I didn't get to see enough of his defense to see if he's going to, be like only like a 1-point swing on each side of the floor, because if he gives up easy 2-point baskets on the other end of the floor and then, shoots a 3 on the other end, at least he's making, a 1-point gain, but like you kind of want him to play defense too. So, waiting to see that. I guess we'll hear a little bit more about that after the Loyola Chicago scrimmage. I'm hoping Jeff Rabjohn somehow finds a way to sneak into that, so we can all find
Jeff
out.
Goodman tweeted out. Yeah.
Yeah. It was Jeff Goodman. It says I think Rabjohn's gonna find a way. Yeah, if anybody's gonna find a way into this, it's gonna be Jeff Rabjohn. He's gonna somehow find a way, and he's gonna put on the premium forum, and I'm gonna actually have to pay to find out about that stuff. But yeah. That's besides the fact. That's a rant for another time.
But for the 3-point contest, Tyra was able to talk, so we got to hear a lot of Tyra's input during the 3-point contest and everything, and we got a lot of input, especially with some of the input. Since, of course, we don't have Tyra or Amanda, the team is going to be carried. The majority of the team is back for women's, just that they're not going to be carried by those two great seniors. She was talking about how the shooting is improving for this team, basically. And a lot of the players that we haven't been able to see, and especially some of our injured red-shirted people and our red-shirted freshmen are going to be able to see the court this year. And we're going to – the women's team is – even though they lost a few people, Tyra seems to think that they're still taking a step forward in the right direction, even without that leadership that they lost. And obviously the production that Tyra and Amanda was able to put out there. She likes the place that they're in. And I think we can trust Tyra's insight and input on even a biased Hoosier team, because Tyra knows basketball.
I might take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but then that's only because, all right, I'll preface it. It's only because it's the two of the, like, I want to say top 10, top 20, at least, IU women's basketball players ever to play at IU. Just even stats wise, like winning wise, like they're two of the best to play here. And losing them is going to be kind of, like a difficult thing to overcome, of course, but like I feel like the freshmen coming in and the transfers that we got are going to be able to step up and at least be as productive as them, like record wise. I don't know if we're gonna have anybody like a Tyra who gets 15 and 10 a game, like every single game, but I think Allie Patberg is going to be really good. I think Brianna Wise is going to be really good. And, of course, all the other people that are returning are going to improve. So I think it's a really exciting time for this women's basketball program. That's my rant.
Yeah, and that Tyra also talked a lot about Allie, too, especially how she's back off of her injury red shirt and everything. And remember, she did get to play with Notre Dame for a year. So she is definitely –
she's good.
She's been engrossed in arguably next to UConn, the best women's basketball program, even historically, not just currently. So let's talk before we go to the dunk contest. Let's mention the locker room for a second. And I think that's just more of a speechless comment, because that locker room, man, they really did well with that locker room.
I really want to go play Fortnite in that locker room.
Yeah,
they showed that they were playing Fortnite on there. I was like, man, that looks like fun. Also, those chairs, they were. So I give tours at Assembly Hall. So if you ever come down to Assembly Hall and want a tour, you tell Kurt that you want a tour from me, and I'll give you the tour.
Personal
and I will probably cry if you tell me that you came because of the Hoosier Sound. I will literally, tears will come out of my eyes right in front of me. But anyways, we don't get to give tours of the locker room. We get to give tours of the press room. And so I knew that those chairs were going in the locker room because I gave tour of the press room and they were just sitting there in the press room. And I was like, these are the nicest chairs I've ever seen in my entire life. So there you go. The secret is that all the extra stuff in Assembly Hall gets stored in the press room. So if you ever want to know where the extra t-shirt stuff it's in the press room, guys.
Yeah, and I assume everyone saw the Twitter video of showing the entire locker room. But man, especially when they zoomed into just the locker room itself, like where all the lockers are, I was just like, oh, that doesn't even look like a locker room. It looks so cool.
I want to say it's a top 10 locker room in the country.
We don't know many others.
I don't know many others, though, but like just looking at the quality, and obviously it's new, it's got to be in the top 10 somehow.
Yeah, and of course, that's a very big recruiting tactic. In addition to recruits, did you see that Romeo did host Keon and Trace that evening? Like there were pictures that he was at his place and everything, and they were hanging out, which is a good thing. We want Romeo to kind of.
I got a question. Where were they hanging out? Because I thought Romeo lives in the dorm. Does he live in an apartment off campus? Is that what happened?
That was the question. I feel like it wasn't Romeo who hosted, even though whoever posted that on Twitter said that Romeo hosted them. But that did look like an apartment and not.
Yeah, it looked like a nice apartment, like the ones that are like right across the street from the stadium. I'm like, they put Romeo, a freshman, up in those apartments. I mean, like they're getting him ready for the NBA. I know, but like, come on, like he's got to get the college experience. He's got to live in a dorm, right? Like, I don't. They all live in Briscoe, but like I know Briscoe doesn't look like that. So,
in all honesty, it was probably Juwan, and since Romeo was just in the picture, they're just like, oh, Romeo's hosting them, even though they didn't really think. But let's go to the dunk contest. The promising dunk contest that kind of turned anticlimactic at the very end. But what did you think about the dunk contest?
That was good. I actually think people gave Romeo too much crap about his where he threw it up with his right hand and dunked his left, where he threw it up with his left and dunked it with his right off the backboard. I thought that was like
the 360.
The 360. I thought that was sneakily like a really like awesome dunk. And like you have to watch it in slow motion a couple times. So I was like, it's really cool. I like that one. And that's the one that won it. That's the one that won it for him, right?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it was either that or it was something like the last round was just bad all around anyway.
Well, anyways, I like that dunk. If Justin Smith had, jumped from the free throw line and actually hit that dunk, I think the roof would have blown off Assembly Hall.
Probably.
I think people would have been, saying he's a first round draft pick. And, I think some people would be having him kiss their babies, basically. Anyways. Didn't happen. I feel bad. Whatever. I thought Devontae Green was robbed. I thought he should have been in the finals. Just because got to stick up for those 6-foot guys. Jake Forrester looks like every time he touches the ball this year, he's going to try to dunk it. It's effortless to dunk it for him. And I'm like, he's going to come in the fourth quarters and one game and just boom it on somebody's face that's been guarding, when Duran comes back. He's like, this guy's been guarding Duran for like 3 quarters, and Jake comes in his first part of the game and just turns around and just slams it on this guy's head because he's all fresh, and this guy's, been getting beaten up by Duran all game. And yeah, we're going to be putting posters of them all over the place. It
was Archie that I think described Jake Forrester, and I was going to talk to him more later, as he gives a lot of energy on the court. If you look at Romeo, he doesn't, of course, the talent exceeds anything, but he's more of like a cool, laid back kind of guy. But then you look at Jake, and he's got more of like a swagger, and he's just got a lot of energy on the court, which is cool to see. I don't think we should sleep on him.
Jake is literally just like the Energizer Bunny with a basketball.
Yeah,
that's all he is. He's just a ball full of energy. So
yeah, I thought that was at least compared to the previous years, that was a better dunk contest overall in terms of like dunks. That was a better dunk contest than previous years. It's kind of the recent years they weren't the best. They were just kind of just doing whatever. And like I said, it was nice to hear Duran especially talk about that kind of stuff and give a little more insight, because he described, if you were able to watch the broadcast, Duran described Romeo's dunk, the 360 tap off the glass in. He described that was a lot harder. But speaking of Romeo, I thought it was also interesting. If you told, without telling the player, if you gave, all right, there's a 3-point contest and a dunk contest, and you said you've got your shooting guard, which one do you think the shooting guard would participate in? You would assume that your shooting guard would participate in the 3-point contest and not the dunk contest. But of course, with Romeo being Romeo, he did not do the 3-point contest. He did the dunk contest just because he's so athletic. He makes everything look so effortless, and he was still able to do not just like normal dunks, I guess, but he was able to get fancy with being a shooting guard.
I don't know. This is a little bit off topic, but also has to do with shooting guard. I don't know if Demezy Anderson is going to play at all this year, but by golly, he is a walking bucket. That's what he is. I don't know what he does, but all he does is just score. And you can tell, he's just nifty with the ball. I don't know if he's gonna get any playing time this year because we're really deep at the 2 and the 3, and that's the only positions you can basically play. But I don't know, man. He of the people who played, other than Evan Fitzner, he's the one that impressed me the most from the scrimmage, and we can talk about the scrimmage now. So
yeah, I was about to segue into the scrimmage. Good segue. There you go, Matt. Look at you just easing everything into it.
You know what? You need to pay me.
I need to pay you. I thought in addition, like you said, Demezy and Evan in the scrimmage. I liked 2 other people. I thought Jake, in addition to all of the other stuff that he did, he still proved himself to be able to do stuff in the scrimmage as well. Of course, it's a scrimmage against yourself, but he was still, like we said, Energizer Bunny, trying to go up and get shots. You saw him. He wasn't. He was hustling. He was hustling to get a lot of these balls, a lot of the rebounds and everything. And in addition to Jake Forrester, I want to say my other person. I thought Race Thompson is going to do. We all thought he'd do good, but he's kind of just like he's kind of on the DL for just people right now. When you think of just the IU team, you think of like Justin and Juwan and Romeo and like even our point guards, and we kind of forget about Race. We're like, oh yeah, there's Race there, and I think he's going to be not a dark horse because we know he can be good. Just in light of hearing all the other names, I think Race is just going to be someone that's going to surprise a lot of national people. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah, I've been high on Race since we got him as a recruit. I don't know where the rest of y'all have been, but no, you've been there. But I'm talking to the audience because I know some of you've been doubting him. I know I see you kind of grimacing behind your computer screens or from your headphones or whatever, however you're listening to this. I see you. I know you doubted Race. I've been a believer since day one. I knew this man was going to be good.
And he hasn't played a
single meaningful second of basketball, and I can already tell you that he's going to be a pivotal piece come March. Because
I just wish
he can bang down low. He can bang down low, and he's also a good defender. He's quick, so he can play that 5 position pretty easily in Archie's system, especially for coming up against a team that's a little bit shorter. And then he also has proved himself or has shown to be a reliable 3-point shooter. I'm just saying, folks.
The biggest part that I saw, in addition to him, like you said, banging down low, getting rebounds, being a physical person, I wish they had more of a present before and after picture of him coming into him coming onto campus last August, like last year August, and then just this year.
That dude is ripped.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been obviously the same height, but his entire body has just grown in the good way. That it is just, oh my gosh, he looks like a bodybuilder kind of.
He is what the frat boys call #swole.
Yes.
Yes. He has become large and in charge. But not like fat, but like
that's
fat
what I was,
with a PH. Like the in jazz, the gotta get the he's got the
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Speaking of bigger people, and also like because Race is a taller fellow, if you looked at which a lot, like if you just looked at the scrimmage and you looked at some people that were on the floor, sometimes there was a noticeable difference in the height from last year compared to this year. Everyone was just so much taller than previous years, even just even going before last year, because last year was a smaller team in general. Just going even multiple years back, this entire team is just not towering over people, but in relation to our previous years, just towering over everyone else.
I don't know if I can remember the correct quote, but I believe it was it Don Fisher that said on Dan Dakic's radio show today or yesterday that this is the most physically talented team, physically gifted team since the 1975 Hoosiers, since he's been here, which if you don't know about the 1975 Hoosiers, they were apparently even better than the 76 Hoosiers. They just had some injury issues, and that's why they didn't win the national title in 75, and we won it in 76. Obviously, 76 went undefeated. So, I mean, hello.
Mm-hmm.
But he's saying that they're even more athletic than that team, and that team was known for some pretty good athletes. So, I mean, and Dan Dockers also said that we're one of the most undervalued teams in the country. I mean, it's not often that IU gets a compliment or a shout out from Dan Dockich. So we can just take that and run with it. I think we're winning national title undefeated.
Okay. And that Kentucky team couldn't even do it a couple years ago.
Oh, no, we're not. That was hashtag sarcasm. But
yes, I know.
But I am slowly becoming even more optimistic for the season, which I didn't even know was possible. I need some bad news to come out to kind of like suppress all this positive vibes I'm having so that I can nail our prediction episode, because I don't want to repeat of what happened last year where I predicted 20 wins and we got 16. So
well, I got some bad news on the bad news front, and AKA some good news with all of the FBI investigations, more news coming out. Obviously, IU has not been anywhere near any of the recent news, and just stuff is getting deeper and deeper. We might have to dive into that one time. But yes, team is big. If you look at Al Durham compared to the rest of the team, because obviously he has not grown a lot, and he just looks so much shorter compared to everyone else with last year. But a couple more points that I want to mention.
6'4". How does a 6'4" guy look short?
And he does look short. He does look short too.
Oh man.
I thought more people stayed for this part than normal. Like in recent years, that's kind of the scrimmage is when people get up and leave, which personally, that's the part that I want to see is the scrimmage in the basketball.
I know.
But
why did people come in the first place? Like, oh my God, I'm so excited for the player introductions. Wow, they did a 3-point contest. I got people shoot. They did a dunk contest, and half of them just made one dunk. Oh wow. Okay, now let's leave. What?
But anyway, most people stayed for that, which was good this year.
Mostly everybody stayed. There's a good like 3 people in my row that left. I kind of gave them that stank eye as they walked by. And I was like, why did you just waste an hour of your life not to watch them play? But
for the next only 15 minutes on a running clock. Anyway,
right.
I hope we score as many threes this year as we did in Hoosier Hysteria, because that was a nice change of pace from this last year. It was nice to see some 3-pointers being shot and some 3-pointers being made. Key part 3-pointers being made. Yes.
Evan Fitzner. That's all I have to say.
And we were talking more about if Evan was going to get a lot of playing time. Even if he's not down low a lot, I think he's going to be getting a lot of playing time for the one reason that he is shooting the ball and making the ball.
They were running pick and pop with him and Romeo, and I was like,
ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
Oh no. And they were doing the same thing with Juwan. I was like, oh no, I feel so bad for all the Big Ten defenses. They're gonna have to deal with that. They have to deal with the pick and roll or pick and pop with Romeo. So you just pick your poison.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
And you got Evan who can roll.
I'm so excited.
You have Evan who can roll because he's big, and Evan who can pop because he can shoot. So
same thing with Jawan. So it's like
exactly. Which I was surprised his shot did look better, even though in the 3-point contest it was he was not the one that won the 3-point contest for him, but his shot did look better. Last point I want to make, because we should get into some football talk. Not much, but some football talk. The freshmen overall, I thought they all looked very composed. It's a scrimmage, but I thought they all looked very composed. Many of them did not look like they were going to make as many freshman mistakes as the average amount of freshmen will.
They looked like a group of freshmen that has been well prepared by a fantastic group of upperclassmen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think having two guys that have been in the program for as long as they have with Jawan, and then Zach McRoberts transferring in, having been in a program, and then Evans Fissner having been in a program that's a winning program. Having those three guys here as senior leaders, as guys they can look to, and not only just role models off the court, but role models on the court and how to play. I think it's fantastic for this group of freshmen. I think they're going to learn a lot over the season, and I can't wait to see what they become come February, early March.
Yep. Good point to wrap up Hoosier Hysteria. November and December, everyone does not play their best basketball. We're probably going to lose a couple games. That does not have doom and gloom for the rest of the season.
Right.
Okay, let's move on. All right, Rutgers. Okay, Rutgers.
All right, now I'm back to doom and gloom.
Yeah, so I'll first start off. Well, no, I'll first say this, and then if you look at the box score and not the final score, you would think IU won by like 25 or more points. We had 541 total yards, which is over 150 more than Rutgers did. We converted 61% of our third downs. 61%. That is a good number for third down conversions, and had the ball almost 11 minutes more than Rutgers did. We had the ball basically 36 minutes to basically 25 minutes for Rutgers. But obviously, this was not the case, and the game was way too close, to say the least. Matt mentioned that he would be, I don't remember the specific verb that he used, but he said something along the lines that he would be upset if this was a 2-score game or less. And not only was it a 2-score game, but it was a 1-score game, Matt.
Yeah, I started paying attention to, they had the Candy Stripe Classic. I was in Hoosier Hysteria sitting there. They had the football game on. They got within 7. I was like, no, I'm not watching this. I'm gonna need to take a Xanax, or like I'm gonna want to jump off the top of Assembly Hall. So I was like, no, I want to watch. They had the Candy Stripe Classic, which is a 3-on-3 tournament that they do with the students. They had that going on. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch this and hope that the game finishes, and it did. I don't know how I don't know how the game ended. I didn't watch. It was like halfway through the fourth quarter. I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not even gonna look up at. I was watching like this, and if you can't see because you're watching this like a podcast, I had my fingers over my eyes to make sure that I could not see the Jumbotron. I didn't want to see. I don't want to watch. I'm being a little bit dramatic, but like I'm not being that dramatic. I did not want to watch. No, that was very uncomfortable. Well, I don't like. No.
Okay. Nope. It was really. Of course, it's the second game in a row that the offense did not score in the second half, which is a problem. You can't win against teams if you're going to not score in the second half, especially like we saw against Michigan State. You're not going to win if you can't score in the second half. And at least Rutgers, it was a bad enough opponent that we could still hold on to our minimal lead. But let's get into some of the offense. So let's talk about QBs, which we could again get into. I think everyone is now puzzled why Penix is not being played at all, because if there was a game for him to play, it was this game to see what he could do against a Rutgers team. You're not going to throw him into Ohio State at Ohio State. You're not going to throw him into homecoming at like Iowa. I don't think you'd throw him into Minnesota on the road on a Friday evening. Like if this was the game that he was going to play and get some meaningful minutes, it was this game. So we're not going to talk about that, because I think most of us are as puzzled as we are about where Michael Penix is for.
Okay,
ever.
I'll give my expert analysis on this, and it's
expert analysis.
It's 3 words, and it's fire Mike the board. That's it. That's my expert analysis on that.
Okay. QBs. Peyton Ramsey. Now, it's hard to get mad at Peyton Ramsey when he has stats of like completing 70% of his passes and still throwing for hundreds of yards and stuff and getting a couple touchdowns and everything. It's hard to get mad at him when he puts those numbers up. But you can still get mad at him when anywhere beyond 5 yards, beyond 5 yards off of the line of scrimmage, he has basically like a 0% passing accuracy anywhere beyond 5 yards. Because anything we do is with behind the line of scrimmage or in the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Also, you can get upset with him because he can't even be breathed on within 2 feet without him checking out of the pocket, leaving the pocket receivers right away. Now, there were a few times that he did get some good yards to where he abandoned the play way too quickly, excuse me. And there were a couple of scrambles that he did scramble and he did put his eyes down the field. That's probably something that all of the coordinators and coaches were talking about is you need to keep looking down the field because Michigan State, he looked away and he stopped and that was it. He was going to try and run the ball. That was it. At least a few times he did put his eyes down the field and it paid off a couple times, but man, Peyton gives up way too easy. If there's someone within a foot, 2 feet of him, he checks out really quickly. But I will give him a lot of credit. I even did tweet about this. This was a veteran play for a sophomore QB. Were you watching the screen for the final drive for them to seal the game?
No.
Okay, so you know how in the NFL they're now taking away the at least for the NFL, not college yet. They're taking away if a defensive player jumps on the ball, they just blow the whistle. Instead of they used to just if a defensive player jumped on the ball, you snap it, you get a free play kind of thing because it's going to be a 5-yard penalty.
Yeah.
The NFL they're taking that away, sadly, but in college they still have that. So Peyton, last couple minutes, all they needed was one more first down to just kneel it out without Rutgers having any timeouts. He got someone to jump. He snapped the ball. The first thing he did was he motioned to Peyton. I think it was Peyton. So he was motioning him, if you're watching on the podcast, just to go down the field. Literally a long ball that you see Aaron Rodgers do, Ben Roethlisberger do, Tom Brady do, all of these, not just top or like veteran NFL QBs, like the cream of the crop NFL QBs that get them to jump, tell the receivers to go down the ball, get him the ball to where he can get it and catch it and then seal the game. So that being said, Peyton he has his good moments as well.
The offense is entirely horizontal. We can go on to start talking about rushing right now, because even the rushing game isn't getting vertical either. Like it's not like we're getting explosive rushing plays. Like the entire offense is just running side to side, throwing side to side, hoping that there's a missed tackle and running. Like that's not going to work against Ohio State. We're going to score like 7 points because Ohio State's literally going to beat our ass. Like it's not acceptable for a Big Ten offense to literally not be able to go more than 10 yards down the field. But that's all we can do because Peyton Ramsey has zero accuracy beyond 15 yards, 10 yards. So like, it's mind-boggling.
That the only part, the part I was more upset about was that this game was a mirror image of the Michigan State game on the offensive end, minus the couple of trick plays that they added, which that's a topic in itself. There was no difference whatsoever in the play calling. Like I said, we would have.
Wait. Why are we using trick plays against Rutgers?
That also didn't
against
work, by the
Rutgers.
way.
They didn't work. I know, but why are we even trying them against Rutgers? This is not an opponent that we try them against. We could beat this team. We could beat this team putting in a good performance with our second unit, as we should, because Rutgers is not good. But like, come on! Like, where were those trick plays during Michigan State when we're down 7?
Mm-hmm. Or down 14 or 21, whatever it was at worst.
Fire Mike DeBoard.
But anyway, in the middle of my monologue. Yes, it was just the same thing. It's not even like we attempted to do something different. Like we would have lost to most of the other opponents with that kind of execution. And also now, since that's literally the second game in a row that we've done the exact same thing, everyone sees that that's what our offensive scheme is. You and I sitting on a dinky little podcast by ourselves, we can
Dinky.
we,
Dinky.
we can predict the IU offense again, which is something that we got upset in the Kevin Wilson era. Like, we can predict the plays. We would always make fun of each other when we were sitting in the stands. We're like, all right, I bet if this play, like 3rd and long, what are we going to do? We're going to run out the middle kind of thing. Like, we can predict the plays now. If we can predict, how about the football experts that are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars? Do you really think that they're going to see what IU is doing? Of course they are. And in addition to that, it's not even like the short passes and the check down passes. We're also just abandoning the run right away. We can't establish a run game or do anything. You have to establish the run in order to get those short passes and those check down passes. Because if you establish the run, then that's what their main priority is going to be. They're going to try and say like, oh, wait, Stevie Scott's actually running on us. We got to look for that first. And then that opens up the field. You can do those short passes. You can go up and go through the middle of the linebackers in the middle of the field and do some check down passes. We're just not athletic enough to show our hand to the other team and still win, even against someone like Maryland or Purdue. Maryland and Purdue are going to beat us, and Minnesota. They're going to beat us if we are showing our hand like this. And then, like you said, we had a couple trick plays. Great. Why are we showing them in Rutgers? Why aren't we even attempting it in Ohio State when it's like the second quarter? Maybe it's only a 3 or 7 point game in the second quarter. Why don't we do a trick pass that no one is expecting? And then also when we do the trick plays, we didn't even both trick plays that we did were not successful against Rutgers.
We went from we could be 5-0 going into Ohio State to we just barely beat Rutgers by 7.
Barely. But I'll get a couple more comments before we move on. Excuse me. The running backs, the running backs, the offensive line. They've had a rough couple games. I hope that's not the season for them, because they're supposed to be the strongest unit on the offense. They're making it really hard for Stevie to find any holes. I don't really put the last 2 games, the lack of rushing for the last 2 games on Stevie. Michigan State, it was Mike DeBoard for running it a total of 9 times, I think, total, 9 attempts. This game, it was more of the offensive line making it hard for Stevie to find holes, because they at least, I think Stevie attempted 18 or something like that. Yes. Runs, which is good. That's a good amount of runs. He just couldn't get anywhere because the offensive line wasn't really giving him much.
The offensive line needs to step up.
They do, which they have been, except for the last 2 games. So hopefully that's something that changes. But this was, oh my goodness, the one touchdown that wasn't called a touchdown from Stevie, where he just where he laid across in the back of the end zone. I have no idea, and everyone's making fun of the Big Ten refs, especially with the Michigan and Northwestern end of the game. Oh my goodness! But he wasn't down. His wrist wasn't down, and the ball touched the plane. Especially the commentators. Did you listen to the? I don't know. Were you listening to the commentators at any point?
No, I wasn't.
They were talking about just him trying to fumble the ball. Dude, the ball crossed the plane. If anything, it would have been down or a touchdown before the fumble. And they were talking about it being a fumble or not. I'm like, oh my gosh. The Big Ten and the Big Ten Network and the Big Ten refs need to. Anyway, wide receivers. I'm going to quickly say something. So this is a more positive point for the offense. Someone usually does step up when someone else is injured. So we had Luke Timian and a couple receivers injured. Ty Freifogel this game was able to help and step up for the lack of production in some of the other ones. It was nice to see Nick Westbrook for a little bit. it more than normal for him this season. And then nice catch, Peyton Hendershot. That was a great behind the back catch. But yeah, okay. Let's go to defense real quick. The opposing offenses are really picking on our young IU DBs. Most of the big plays go to our freshman DBs, whether they're redshirt or true freshmen. Rutgers' first touchdown to a wide receiver. Rutgers' first touchdown to a wide receiver this season, I'll repeat that again, went to a pair of IU freshmen defensive backs that was guarding him. Gave up a couple big plays. They had some good stops. But honestly, this was an injured and / suspended defense for half of it. So it wasn't too bad of an outing. It wasn't too bad of an outing for
it wasn't bad.
injured and suspended.
Yeah, I know. For like a Power 5 team to give up 17 points away and then only give up 17 points, it's a fine performance from the defense. I'm more upset at the offense than anything. Like,
yeah,
we should have at least scored another touchdown. At least scored another touchdown. Or at least kicked a field goal. We should have won by 2 possessions. We can't just win by 1 possession against Rutgers. Kansas, by God, Kansas beat Rutgers by like 3 possessions.
Yep. Okay. Last thing, the special teams. Reese Taylor, my goodness. You saw him everywhere. Literally, he saved a big run at the beginning of the game by tackling on special teams. Like, this kid literally can. There's not a position he can't play. Maybe the offensive and defensive line, but
wait until he's a senior. I can't wait until he's a senior. He's going to be one of those players that like everybody in college football is going to be talking about because he's just going to be one of those like he's going to be like oh God, what was his name for Michigan? I can't remember his name right now. He played safety. He's on the Browns now.
Yeah,
oh man!
Nice job, sports podcast guys.
You know what?
Jabril
Peppers.
Yeah.
Jabril Peppers. There it is. Thank you. Jabril Peppers. He's gonna be like Jabril Peppers just his senior year, but he's just like plays all over the field. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be as good as Jabril Peppers because that's kind of outrageous to say, but like he could be like along the lines of like, hey, ESPN talks about an IU game because look out for Reese Taylor because he plays everywhere on the field.
Exactly.
Get the ball. Yeah.
Okay, gonna transition to Ohio State before first kickoff 4:00 p.m. Now it's supposed to be a Fox national TV game. No, that's for a homecoming. It is a Fox. It's a national TV game, so national TV for better or worse. Here we go. 26.5 point spread in Ohio State's favor.
26.5 points.
Yes.
That's how bad our performance was against Rutgers. It was like a 14-point spread before the Rutgers game.
A 17-point spread, so even worse. ESPN Matchup Predictor has it at 96.3% that Ohio State is going to win and 3.7% for IU. Now,
3.7% is generous.
Yes.
By the way.
Actually, that is better than recent years, honestly.
Generous.
Yes. So Ohio State's resume so far, they've beat Oregon State, Rutgers, TCU. TCU was ranked 16th in the nation at the time, Tulane, and then this past weekend, they just beat number 9 Penn State, 27-26 at Penn State. Excuse me.
That was a great game. That was a fantastic game. If you didn't watch that, I highly recommend going and watching the highlights. Great game. Some mind-boggling play calling on behalf of Penn State. Not as mind-boggling as one might seem at first glance, but still, I was more like, Kevin Wilson. Is that you, Kevin Wilson?
He's on the other side of the ball.
Yes.
But Ohio State is scoring 49 points per game and giving up 18.8 per game, and they are winning each game on average by about 30 points. Now,
is that good?
I don't know.
I don't know what good Division I football is anymore.
Yeah.
Between my Florida Gators and this, I don't understand what good football is.
OSU at the moment has kind of played either the cream of the crop of the nation or the basically the nobodies. So this will be their first mid-level opponent, basically, if that means anything at all. But don't expect the end result to be much different. It's just kind of food for thought. They could potentially they could be looking past us since this is the beginning of their 4 next games are very easy for Ohio State, so they get kind of a break. But before I give a couple players to look out for on the offense and the defense, is there anything you want to generalize about your Ohio State thoughts before I finish it up, and then we get to a couple questions?
I mean, if you're looking to be optimistic and wanting to have your heart broken, last year around this time, Ohio State had a very close game with Penn State. You know what happened the game after? You know what
I
the game? You know the game after that Penn State game was?
I forgot.
They went to Iowa and got crushed.
Oh, yes, now I remember
So
that. Yeah,
I'm not saying history repeats itself because it's
it
at
won't.
Ohio State, but coming off of a very emotional, close game, I could see us keeping this a close game until the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Very plausibly, especially since we've given Ohio State a game the last 2-3 years.
I would say,
So,
and if you want to talk about if we have a chance of beating Ohio State, no. But we traditionally, the past few years, we have kept it pretty close for 2 to 3-ish quarters. We keep it close for about 2 quarters in either the third or the fourth quarter, depending on the year. It goes away. But traditionally, the first half has been pretty good. But who is going to be attendance in the game? Matthew.
I will, because the band is traveling. Though our away trip decided to be turned into a day trip. Away trip, it's a day trip, because the marching band travel booking company messed up and booked our hotel rooms for the wrong date. So I'll be on a bus at 5 a.m. on Saturday. So catch me,
Nice.
half asleep at 4 o'clock during the game.
Okay. Now, just as last week, I gave some literally laughable stats that Matt had some great reactions to for Rutgers with how bad their season had been going up until the IU game. These are the same kind of mind-boggling stats, but in a wow, those are good stats kind of way. So, except for the Penn State game,
I have horrified reactions to
that. Yeah. So, except for the Penn State game, Ohio State has put up 40 or more points in every single game. So, I expect them to score around that number, if not more. So,
IU.
As good as our defense has been playing in Canton play, they are going to give up probably 40 points. I'd say, Matt, it would be a win if they can keep it under 40 points, because this is a very good offense on the Ohio State team.
I'll talk to the AP poll voters if they'll give us votes if we keep them under 40 points.
Yeah. Their offense is averaging 557 yards per game.
All right. That's a lot. But did you know that I don't even have any fun facts for that? No, that's just kind of depressing. All right.
Majority of those are passing yards, by the way. Okay, so speaking of passing yards, QB, Dwayne Haskins. He's a good QB. He's a pretty good QB. He's averaging about 22 pass completions for 30 pass attempts per game, which is a 70.8% completion rate. I averaged the other parts, but he's completing 70.8% of his passes. He's already thrown for 1,464 yards in his first 5 games, which is the 8th most in the entire nation for QBs right now.
That's pretty good, especially for an offense that has a pretty good rushing attack too.
Yep. Which I'm going to get to the rushing attack, because with the way Ohio State's been playing this year, their rushing attack is the quote unquote weak part of their offense. And I don't mean weak. I just mean that is the worst part of their offense. And that's saying something, because they have a very good rushing attack. Okay, back to Dwayne Haskins. He has already thrown for 19 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions. Again, 19 touchdowns in his first 5 games to 2 interceptions. That is second in the nations for touchdowns thrown. That's only second behind the crazy Hawaii quarterback, who has already thrown for 2,100 yards and 22 or 21 touchdown passes. But so he basically, if Hawaii wasn't having this crazy good quarterback playing against bad teams, he would basically be leading the nation in touchdown passes.
That's a good ratio.
19-2.
That's a pretty decent ratio.
Their starting offensive line has only given up 4 sacks. I'll say that again. Their starting offensive line has only given up 4 sacks. So honestly, and I only say starting because they've put their backups in a lot, and their backups have given more sacks, but it's the starting has only given up 4. So honestly, I expect IU to not get to Haskins once this game. I think they'd be lucky to get a couple hurries in this game. He doesn't run, though. Unlike a few recent Ohio State QBs in the past, he does not run very much. If you take away his one long run that he did, he's only rushed for He's had 13 carries, and it's kind of in quotes for carries because QB, if you get sacked, they kind of count it as a carry. 13 carries for 19 total yards without his one long yard. So he does not run. Speaking of running, they've got a very good 1-2 punch. And I mean a very good 1-2 punch because J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber, they have almost identical rushing numbers. They each have 380 and 350 rushing yards. For both of them, they're averaging about 5.4 yards per carry. And then they also have 3 touchdowns each. So literally, they're stats-wise, they're doing almost the same thing. The only difference between how they're using it a little more is JK will catch the ball. JK, I meant KJ, will catch the ball out of the backfield a little more. So he's going to catch the ball from the backfield and get some passing yards for a fair amount. Here's another stat for their, what I said, their quote-unquote weak part of their offense. The part that is in receivers and offensive line. Through 5 games, their total rushing stats has them over 1,000 rushing yards already.
That's pretty good. I think that's how much did Tevin Coleman run his senior year or junior year?
Junior year, I don't remember. Did he get over 2,000 then?
I think so.
I think so.
But like they're halfway there.
Yeah. Receivers. Okay. They've got a bunch of different receivers. But Paris Campbell and KJ Hill.
Paris Campbell is so good.
Yeah. He's got a lot of touchdowns and a lot of yards already. But Paris Campbell and KJ Hill are their go-to receivers. So they're kind of their number 1, number 2 receivers. Austin Mack will also get catches. In addition to those 3 guys, Terry McLaurin won't catch a lot of balls, but he will get a lot of touchdowns. Right now Terry McLaurin is averaging 1 touchdown per about 2 catches. So he's doing good. Yeah, he's doing pretty good there.
That's again another good ratio. We should have definitely invited Skibby on for this podcast. I definitely think he would have had some decent input. He's, if you don't know, our old other partner used to be 3 of us on this podcast. Skibby is a diehard Ohio State fan. So.
Yuck. Anyway.
I mean, he grew up liking them, just like I grew up liking the Gators. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. The receivers, 17 different receivers have caught a pass in.
You're allowed to have that many wide receivers in a game?
Those 17 different receivers have hauled in 1,733 yards from both QBs, and that includes their backup QB when he comes in for the
Dwayne.
Yes, when the game is 77-3. Hey, there's one. I've got one shred of positive news. Their kicker, he's not very good. He's made all 32 point afters. I'll repeat that again. He's made all 32 point afters. That means if you kick a point after, that means you have to score a touchdown to get the point after. So he's already made in 5 games 32 point afters, but he is only 3 for 5 for his field goals. He's missed one from 30 to 39, and he's missed one from 40 to 49. Look at that. But hold on a second. Rewind the clock. Out of 32 touchdowns, they've only gotten 3 field goals. So if you think about that, if they get even remotely close to the end zone, they score a touchdown.
Scoring a touchdown.
They're scoring a touchdown. Turnovers, they don't give the ball up.
Hit 0.
They don't give the ball up. They've only had 1 fumble and 2 interceptions out of 5 games. Okay, that's the offense. Let's get to the defense. Obviously,
quick.
Obviously, they lost Nick Bosa, one of the best in the country, but their defense is obviously really good. In terms of how IU might play to their defense, they give up a little more passing yards compared to defensive yards. It's not, their defensive line is not quite Michigan State in terms of rushing attack, but OSU gives up about 357 yards per game. And actually, Indiana has given up less total yards for our defense compared to Ohio State's. Indiana is 49th in the country for defensive giving up yards, and Ohio State is 72nd. So Ohio State will give up some offensive yards. Their offense, of course, will just overthrow you by a lot and then some. So that being said, Ohio State is 27th in the nation for points allowed. So they give up a lot of yards, but they stop you from scoring. They only give up 18.8 points per game. Keep that in mind that they also have played 2 ranked opponents already, and compared to most teams that are in front of them in that statistic, most of those teams in front of them have basically all cupcake games.
Yep.
Okay. The mind-boggling stat for the defense. They have sacked the opposing QB 19 times already.
I'm just letting you know, Peyton Ramsey is literally going to be running for his life. The offensive line, no matter how good it is, or even if it's been slightly inconsistent, it's still a good offensive line. This is the best group of defensive linemen we will play. Michigan State's the best defensive line
Rushing,
as far
like
as
stopping the
rushing
run.
defense. Yeah, best rushing defense, their best rushing defensive line. This is the best overall defensive line we will play all year. I have no doubt about it. Even, all right, I saw that Ben had a question about on Twitter if since Joey Bosa's out, do you think it'll matter? No, it won't, because the talent level on that defensive line is astronomically insane. Like, it's so, I would compare it to basically it's Kentucky basketball. It's the position group is like Kentucky basketball. They're all 5 stars. They're all fantastic. They literally, like, half of them are going to end up in the NFL. Yeah, no. Peyton Ramsey's literally be running with like a chicken without his head, like running like a chicken without a head. He's going to be scrambling all over the place because he's not going to have any time to throw because they're just going to get to him so fast.
Yep. Okay. To finish out the defense, we can get to a couple questions and try and get you out of here. I know it's a longer episode. We didn't think it would be, but Hoosier Hysteria took a lot of time, which is a good thing. Yeah. Those are some good stuff. Turnovers, they've forced 4 fumbles and 4 interceptions. So at this point in the stage, that's about average. Most teams against their cupcake games have gotten about that. But still, then in terms of tackles, the player with the most tackles is Jordan Fuller with 22. So they don't have like one outstanding player since Bosa's out, but they do have 16 different players that have gotten double-digit tackles already throughout the season. So, of course, they don't have one outstanding player. They just have a bunch of really, really good players. It's no surprise, but there you go. Like Matt and I said, I don't think there's a chance that IU there's a very, 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 very slim chance that IU has to pull this out, especially away. If it was a home game, it'd be a little different because we did play number 1 Ohio State a few years ago up until the last minute. But away, it's a little harder. Hopefully, we'd like to see if they have a good game. I think they'll make it a first half. Then the second half, we'll get tired like normal. But okay, let's move on to a couple quick questions. A couple of them, David asked the soccer title odds, which I think is a great question. We can talk about this more later since the season's getting underway. But if any of you don't know, the one loss that IU has, of course, was to Wake Forest. But you know who is in first place and is undefeated? It's
Stanford.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, right? Yep.
Yeah. So the one loss that IU has right now is to the best team in the nation. So IU is playing very well right now, and I think our title odds are pretty high because most of our team is back. We have been through that whole thing. Most of the team being back, being through that whole sequence of going through the playoffs and the title. They have also experienced a heartbreaking loss. It's gonna be hard to put it past them to try and really they're gonna be gunning for the title pretty heavily. I'll say that. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think we're the top 3 for the title. I think we'll at least be in one of the semifinal games. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick, we don't have to discuss it, but Noah, speaking of Noah, Noah Skibby asked World Series matchup and winner. Who are your 2 who's your AL and NL team that you think are going to get in? Then I'll say that, and then we'll both give our winners.
I don't think the Cubs are getting in anymore.
As they play right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of doubting it at this point. Just because we have to play 2 really tough matches, but I don't know who's going to come out of the NL. I think it's really close. Whoever's going to come out.
I agree.
But I don't care who comes out of the NL because it's going to be the Red Sox that are going to win it. So there you go. It's the Red Sox versus everybody else, and the Red Sox are going to win the World Series because they're obviously the best team in the league. It's not even close.
Yeah, I said AL was Red Sox. There are a lot of really good teams though in the AL. I think even if the Red Sox don't come out of it, I think the AL is going to win in general, just because there are 100 plus win teams out of the 5, even if you include both wild card teams. But at NL, I'm just going to throw a shot out there. I think the Dodgers will get back there. Again, NL is very close. Again, NL is probably not going to win, so I have the Red Sox. And I even put in 5 games. I think someone will steal 1 game, but it's going to be not much of a series.
Red Sox are too good.
Yep. Okay. That about wraps it up, folks, for our 56th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you all so much for joining us. Stay tuned through updates on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And visit our website at thehoosiersound.com to find all of our information regarding our podcast, all in one place. As always, send us your questions as the audience, so be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what questions you have, and we'll have them on our next episode. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our link, so we can try and grow this podcast. But anyways, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.